So, what is the mistake that a lot of people make when it comes to estate planning? And how do you rectify this? Well, problem we have is that a lot of people think that if they have a will, that's the end of it. They've got their estate planning in accordance. Their family is not going to struggle or suffer, which means that when something happens to them, their family will easily get access to everything. In fact, there's going to be a plan and a system that works that will make things easy and smooth for their family. Is this the case? Well, in most instances, it is not. Why? Because drafting a will is not necessarily an estate plan. It's a part of estate planning. It's an aspect of estate planning. Right. So one of the things that I want you to think about when it comes to estate planning is think about it as the overview of your entire life, the financial assets, everything, right? Because what you're trying to do here is you're trying to create a system that's going to work for when you don't have the capacity to make decisions, also for when you are not there. So you want to have this working system that's already in place, right? That is directed by you, even though you are not there, even though you no longer have the capacity to control the system. Hence, you are going for an estate plan, but you simply drafting a will is not necessarily going to do that for you. In fact, even before you draft your will, you first have to have a discussion, right, with your legal practitioner about exactly what you want included, how you want things structured for this to really work for your family. Now, I want us to talk about some of the things that I want you to pay careful attention to as you navigate through your estate plan that a lot of people tend to overlook, which have an impact when we have to do or go through the administration process, and which is not necessarily a positive impact, hey? So I just want you to take note of those things. So without further ado, let's get into the video. But before we do so, I've got to introduce myself to the people that are new here. My name is Yolanda Mnyengeza. I am an attorney and a director at a law firm here in Johannesburg, South Africa. Right, so let's not waste time. Let's move. Now, like I said, a lot of people tend to believe that if they have a will, they are all right. They've got a watertight plan in place, and therefore nothing will be difficult. Well, let's talk about why this cannot be. Number one, a lot of people get hijacked when they have to draft wills. They don't even know the contents of their wills. They have a will, but they can never spell out for you what that will actually means, because when they were drafting it, they were taking care of something, right, with a service provider. And then the next thing they know, they're like, service providers like, do you want a will as well, right? It's a matter of you're buying bread and somebody asks, do you also want milk? And you're like, oh, might as well get milk, right? So in most instances, that's how people often draft wills, right? And so because of this, a lot of people don't really get the opportunity to dictate, because when did you think about it? Because you left the house going to attend to something else, but now you are at this place and you're being presented with an opportunity to draft the will. You did not really get the opportunity to think about this. You did not get the opportunity to really ponder as to how you want to set up the system that you want to work when you're not there. And so that is a disadvantage, because then you cannot properly instruct what really you want. And in most instances, you don't even have the opportunity to have really a wide discussion about this issue, because there's not really much time that was put aside to take care of this. You just were told there's an opportunity to draft the will, and you were like, why not? Then you drafted it. Did you really map out your dynamics to the person who drafted that will at that particular point? Not to say all of them are going to handle things the same way, but did you get the opportunity to tell them who and what you are, what your family dynamics are, what you would like, how you would like your family to operate when you're not there? What is it that you envision, right? Did you get that opportunity? Because if not, it means that you need to be thinking about re-looking at that will. And the reason why this is extremely important is because the contents of a will make a huge difference. Not only is a will an important part of estate planning, but the terms and conditions you include there, that's your mouthpiece. That's the last opportunity you have to say what you intend, about your family, about your assets, and the future you envision for them. That's your last words to them. So they need to really make sense for your family. For example, when you pass away, if you've got minor kids, who's going to take care of them? What does your will say? Does it really entail who's going to be looking after these kids? And is that your idea? Is that exactly what you want? Number two, if you, for instance, pass away when these kids are minors, how are they going to get access to their money? Because obviously you want them to get access to the money. How will they get access to it? Do not forget, if you labeled those kids or named those kids to get those amounts of monies because they are young, younger than 18, it means that they won't be able to get access to the money themselves. It means that the money will now have to be transported directly to the Government Guardians Fund. If it's not being transported to the Government Guardians Fund, what's written in your will? The person who was assisting you to draft that will, what did they state there? Did they actually establish a testamentary trust? And who's going to be handling this testamentary trust that they established, if they established it? And number three, in terms of executorship, who's going to be the executor here? Do you know? If the first person appointed does not wish to take up such a role, do you also know of an alternative person that's going to take up this role? Or is it going to be the service provider that you were talking to? How does it work? Do you know? You've got to know, because these are important things that will make a huge difference. Also, you're leaving things to people, right, that you're leaving behind. How are they getting access to the things that you're leaving behind? How? Will they just get everything as is? What's written in your will? Is what you intend, is it exactly what's written there? Or do you have a different intention? Because if you do, it has to be translated into that will. It mustn't be something that you're thinking. What you're thinking and what you want and what you intend and what you envision, is it written on the will? Make it a point that it is. Read, ask, and make sure that you take the necessary steps to ensure that it actually speaks to you, because this is an important aspect. This is an important part of estate planning. Let's talk about the second thing I want you to pay careful attention to and think about. The second thing that I want you to think about is, how easy is it to claim the things that you have in terms of proceeds? How easy will it be to claim, i.e., a provident preservation fund that you have, an investment fund that you probably have a special beneficiary for? How easy is it going to be for those people to get access to those monies? Do you know what documents are normally required for this? What does your family have to have access to in order for them to pursue this claim, and successfully so? Do you know the process of your current service provider? Do you have an idea? You sitting where you are right now, you've got an investment and you have nominated a certain person who's going to benefit from that. Do you know what the process actually entails? What will the person that's meant to benefit from those proceeds, what will they need to get access to those monies? The reason why I say this is important, we've got people running into the 10th year, running into the 15th year. They are still struggling to get access to those monies because there's a lot being required, right? And there's certain things that they are unable to furnish at all. And this is why I often say that every piece of document pertaining to anything that you have, you save it, you store it to ensure that your kids or whoever is going to benefit from you has prima facie proof of everything. But then again, you also need to understand the process. Some service providers are not as difficult they will have requirements of 5 things, 5 documents. Please provide us with this, provide us with this. Others will have 20 things that they want. And you'll find that those 20 things are dependent on so many other factors. And so this ends up being what? A heavy legal burden for your kids. Now they have to transfer this to us to try and resolve, and it comes at a cost. So, do you know the process of claiming from different service providers? And then lastly, I want you to think about your financial situation. This one is very important. This one you have to have a discussion on with your legal practitioner, because this is what will put everything into shambles. It will shatter whatever plan you think you have. It will shatter that will. It will shatter whatever plans you think you have put in place if you don't look and assess your financial circumstances. I'm going to explain this. When you pass away, right, and in the normal sense, normally there are so many things that your estate has to pay for. There's going to be taxes applicable. I'm talking capital gains tax. I'm talking, especially if you have properties still in your name, right? There's so many taxes that will be applicable. And those taxes have to be paid for in the form of money. And you know, when there's no money, that's going to disrupt the whole plan you have. Because if you had planned something about a property, that it must continue to be in the estate, we're not going to keep it whereas we owe taxes. That property will end up being sold because there's no financial plan here. Remember, your estate will also have to pay for administration costs, right? Are these costs available? Is there enough money available to take care of these things, right? Your financial plan also has to, it's incorporated into this estate plan. That's why I say that, this will drafting thing doesn't do away or doesn't do justice to estate planning, right? The things that I'm just highlighting here are the things that I deem as so much important. Obviously, there's other things that also must be considered in terms of your estate plan, right? In order for you to say, okay, I'm comfortable. A financial plan is so critical. There must be a detection during your discussion with your legal practitioner, in a sense to advise you of the prospective costs of what your estate will be responsible for. And that should prompt you to take the necessary action. And I want you to also understand different financial products that you have that apply to your estate. When they talk about a security for an immovable property, what does that mean? What are the effects if I die and there was a protection cover on a property or an immovable property? How does that work? What does it mean? Is it going to cover the whole thing? If not, how does it normally operate? Understand the things that will affect your estate, because once you understand them, you can tackle them, you can prepare for them. That way you'll have a watertight plan, which is what exactly you're gunning for when you're going for an estate plan. So these are just a few of the things that I just want you to think about before you can rest and say, I think I have a plan. Right? Obviously, there's other things which you and your legal practitioner can discuss, but these are the most important ones. Don't forget, if you require such services, you're welcome to contact us anytime. Our details are here, and there's also our website where you can get access to all of our details. So that brings us to the end of our discussion today. So, like we normally say, if you found this useful, helpful, and you think it could help another person, share this educational video. Let's get educated, in the masses. So we'll see you next time. Just a reminder, my name is Yolanda Mnyangeza. I'm an attorney and a director at a law firm here in Johannesburg, South Africa. We will see you next time.